Middlekauff! Hey!
Welcome, everybody. It's good to be on the internet.
It's good to be streaming.
Another ham stream coming at you on a Monday. This is a YouTube-only edition of the show. If you are here, please hit that like button. Bam! Subscribe. And check out our podcast in the description below.
Smash it.
John, a report on Sunday's podcast, which came out late Sunday night. Thanks to everybody who checked it out. There was a discussion you and I had about the percentage of female consumers we have of our content.
Yeah.
Last night or this morning, I got a DM from one of our female listeners who said, I'm a listener, and my complaint, not really a complaint, just FYI, the buckmason.com/ham promo doesn't apply to women's tees. So I think it's likely that this DMer is not a dude who has like an internet profile that is a woman. This is just a woman who consumes and wants a free t-shirt from Buck Mason in a woman's cut.
Yeah, you know, the problem is that advertisers, I didn't even know that, honestly. I would have guessed that it was free no matter what. But, you know, obviously they buy our show based on the analytics that we have. You know, if we had 50-50, we would, I'm sure, we would push makeup, right? We'd push whatever. There's no, you would just have a different demo. But it's just, they clearly bought us for the men's sales, correct?
Well, yeah, they bought us for the demo. That's right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe if you can go to buckmason.com right now /ham and get a free tee. Maybe
your boyfriend one.
Incorporate or kid, or
or
neighbor.
Happy if you have a kid, happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day.
But she might not be listening, right?
No, she's listening. She's
she listened, but I'm saying she might not be watching. Excuse me.
But probably a P1, John.
Could be, yeah.
Key consumer.
But we see the YouTube; it's also 100. So
I just like the like. Just give me the like. I know that's what I'm saying. I know it's not accurate because they're out there. They damn it.
Yeah, they exist.
Warriors play tonight, Monday. If you're watching this before the Warrior game, we'll talk about that a little bit. And check out buckmason.com/ham where you can get sweet teas, free gear, or a free tea with anything you order. What are you looking at?
I was going to look
9.5.
So he's not playing.
Doubtful, but officially. But yeah.
9.5. Damn. That's
9.5 point Warrior favorite.
That's a large line, especially when the other game is 1.
I know. I was thinking about that today, actually. Don't feel great about a number that big. But we can get to it. Do you want to talk about that first?
Yeah, I mean, they're tipping off here in 3 hours, right? 4,
7 o'clock. Yeah. My feeling is the series is over, even if Ja plays. But I saw, I don't know. Did you see the tweet that's been going around, or the quote that was going around today from Dylan Brooks that he would take back the GP2 hit if he could?
No, I didn't see that. He talked.
Yeah,
must talk to shoot around.
I watched him talk. When you read that quote, you would get the sense that he was just like, the whole thing was him like, man, I feel so bad. He said it like, but he also said I was making a play on the ball and Gary Payton adjusted in the air, and what happened. And he also said, kind of Draymond-esque, that he likes a crowd booing him, which I think anytime you have a series with any players that are that type of guy, it's good for the series. If your team has one, every team needs a guy like that. Every opponent, if you're playing a team that has a guy like that, it's more fun. But I do wonder tonight, I know what Oracle Arena would do in a game like this. Like with the best,
you know what Memphis would do if it was reversed, right?
If it was Draymond coming back game 4.
Yeah. I just think the crowds will, it's going to boo. It's pretty high-end wealth.
Yeah, what'll they have for Dylan Brooks tonight, to me, is interesting.
Like, how much hatred do you actually have when you have $100 million in your bank account? And that's not accounting for, you're probably down half of your stocks, but your stocks equal $500 million, and now they're $250 million. Like, that is the lower bowl. Not the front row, the lower bowl. I would imagine the average income in the lower bowl tonight, non-kids, what would you say? Average income
worth or like annual income?
Annual income on their tax return.
I mean, I would guess it's $500,000+ a year
Yeah, because clearly the first couple rows would be really inflated. You could have some billionaires, right? Or even guys worth hundreds of millions. And then you just have probably, I would say, the lowest income guy that wasn't giving their seats or whatever that pay for it or involved in a business that has them. Yeah, I would lean closer to 5, 6. I mean, it'd be pretty high.
Because to pay that amount for a ticket, you know what I mean? Let's say you make $500,000 pre-tax.
In California, that's like $260,000.
Now, if you're making 500, maybe you got to, maybe you're doing a few things, but that ticket costs what for tonight? What does that ticket cost? Have you looked?
Well, Kawakami told me a while back, because I heard him throw out a number how much they were making per game, and it was like $7 million net profit a home game in the playoffs per game. So why they love these home games. And I think that I forwarded you a story that someone forwarded me. They made $700 million this year in revenue from the chase. I think that also might have included like Celine Dion's and the Metallicas and, Beatles and all that shit. But that's a lot. I mean, they get making a lot of money. I think the secondary market, he said that they didn't bump up ticket sales. The Warriors didn't. But like when you and I, when we look, we don't look at what you would have paid from the Warriors, right? We just see what the market is going for.
Yeah, I mean, here we go. This is lower bowl, section 116, row 16. So this is like center court.
Like second to last row.
Yeah, third to last. Yep. 1,043 each plus fees. This is on Ticketmaster.
So hit buy now. The fees are underrated, guy. They're like 10%.
Sit tight. You purchased them. They're yours. You can't sell them back. Fuck. Yeah, the fees are fees. Looks like fees and taxes are $438. I can't get around signing in, but I can see it. It's like $2,600.
So the tickets alone are like $2,100, and then another $450 to get you about $26, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You're paying $400 or $500 in fees. When I went to the Rams 49er game, the fees on the tickets were $200 a ticket. What are you supposed to do? And I was like, this is crazy. But everywhere you look, that's the going rate for fees. How much money is Ticketmaster making? Holy shit.
Let's go TickPick because their thing is no fees, and now we can get just a cleaner price. So yeah, I mean that's $1,326.
So their price is just higher.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like they don't trick you with fees. Like they just tell you what the price is. And I think it might end up in the end, maybe sometimes being a little lower. That's what they say. I'm trying to find like an A. Sometimes they say like a C deal. Oh, hold on. The best deal. Well, I mean, $335. They have like an all-in price. $335, section 127, which is not lower bowl, but it's like, Concord. It's not the upper bowl either. So that's probably the best you could do. 127, $335.
Not terrible. I remember going to a game with EG in high school. Sacramento Kings, Dallas Mavericks. Last row, Arco Arena, $20 each.
Last row, Arco Arena, $20 each.
Yeah, we went for $40.
There was once upon a time you could probably sit in the lower bowl for $20 at Arco Arena.
Yeah, but this was first round of the playoffs against Dirk. Like,
yeah, that's pretty good.
Or 02. Yeah.
So, but I mean, you guys, like, if you were going now to that game, you wouldn't, and you would have sat lower for more money, right? And it would have been a good deal.
Yeah. But
you would have spent like you today. You'd be like, oh fuck, I can sit in the lower bowl for 120. You might do that.
Exactly in 2002. But a decade later, a team down the road, sitting in the lower bowl is. Think of the difference. I bet you could have sat in the lower bowl at the time for $150 each total, like all out taxes. Hell, maybe even less, maybe $100 total. Right, last row, lower bowl, Arco Arena, NBA playoffs. Now it costs you over $1,000. Now you would say the Bay Area. Like Memphis isn't that expensive, but holy moly.
Kind of sucks you don't get to see Joe then. I spend that much money, I'd be into a close game.
I went to the Monday Night Football game a couple years ago when the Niners played the Browns. It sucked. They blew them out. You're like, if I'm going to make the effort to come here.
Tickets for that game?
Yeah, I just bought tickets.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I remember that.
And the first play of the game, Matt Breida takes it 80. It was just they kicked Rich Sherman picked off Baker. They killed him. And it's like, it's fun. It's really explosive in the first half, but the second half is kind of just like, meh. It's like,
But you can't leave.
I didn't pay that much for those tickets, but the time, you're like, if I'm going to come down here, I want to see something sweet.
Right.
I remember I went to the Seattle Monday night game a couple years ago. When double, I guess there's not double overtime in the NFL, but it went to the last second of overtime. It was the craziest game. I was like, they lost, but it was like, God, I felt like it was worth my time going down there. Remember when we used to go to Warriors games in like the early Steve Kerr era, and you would just be like, yeah, I'm leaving in the third quarter because they're up 40 points.
Yeah. I'm just looking at another pair of tickets here. 115. 30, 27, 33. Yeah, so $3,000. Section 115.
But again, these are secondary market. So, I mean, some of these people didn't pay.
What do you didn't pay what?
I mean, some of these people are season ticket holders. Their company has it, right? They just paid whatever they paid the Warriors, not these tickets.
Right.
What are you doing?
Huh?
Are you doing like a breakdown of the tickets?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the
Who
same. I'm trying to find the same ticket.
Oh,
we can keep babbling.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, you mentioned Kawakami. He sent me a DM today. He had a show name idea, which is honestly not bad. He said, unsolicited name for the show, the Scout Team.
That isn't terrible.
Not terrible. Now you'd be like, well, I don't want to be known as the Scout Team guy, but it kind of has a blue collar, vibe to it. I told him, don't hate it, which in the way we talk, don't hate it means kind of like it.
Honestly, if we had a merchandise business, those would be t-shirts.
It would look
/hats
good, right?
Immediately.
Scout Team.
Yeah. It's an easy one to say and sell too. It's an
honestly,
easy one
we could make merch even if we stayed ham. That was like everybody, we're all the Scout Team. It's like another way of saying blue collar. Like we're all Scout Teamers.
Yeah, Scout Team with John and Guy. Or Scout Team with Guy and John. Scout Team with Haberman Middlekauff.
Ham Scout Team.
Yeah, it kind of works because everyone has a Scout Team, right? It's not just a football thing, even though it kind of is a football thing.
Lost my concentration working out with that name. It's so good. Yeah. I think it's the point of that.
It's not terrible at all. The picture that went viral on the Warriors game of Tim with John looking in the background, him talking to Kyle, was pretty funny.
I don't know if you sent me that or you got to give credit too, because CanBR, what did it write? Like 3 legends or something like that.
It was.
That was a good tweet.
It was a good tweet.
Usually like team or like station accounts are too cheesy, but that was good. That was good material right there.
Yeah, you get, those two were there. Ayuk was there. It had a feel to it. You're locked into these tickets.
Well, yeah, I just want to know I want to know like this no fee site, like do they actually give you a better price?
I don't think so because you just found the same tickets and they were $1,300.
War was a different ticket. So that's why I'm trying to find the same ticket. But anyway.
Yeah, no one watching this is going.
Scott, you don't think Lacob's watching this?
No. He's in the back of a Mailbag right now driving up the 101.
Texting Steve Kerr, is Kuminga in the starting lineup tonight?
Yeah.
Please tell me Kuminga's in the starting lineup tonight.
He's hot.
We're all pro. I know. We're Scout Team and we're all pro. It's tough. But do you have a Warriors Mavs or Warriors Suns preference?
Whatever's easier to go to the NBA Finals, because if the Warriors lose any of this, I'm out. Like I find myself not really watching the NBA playoffs, which is weird. I've always loved basketball. It's one of my favorite sports, but a lot of these teams just don't do that much for me. Giannis does. I really enjoy watching
Celtics. The Celtics core is pretty sweet.
That series is
those guys play their asses off.
I'm excited to watch that tonight.
Yeah,
like that. But watching Phoenix Mavs, I can easily turn it off, turn on movies. I've done that every single one of their games. Like watch something else. They feel like watching Giants Rockies, in the middle of June. Like the game just does not matter. Even though it's the NBA playoffs, it's done little. The Suns honestly don't move me that much emotionally.
I know.
And Chris does. He used to, I think, when he was with the Celtics and definitely with the Rockets. But I don't feel the same. I'm rooting for him to lose this series because I think it would just be such a blemish on his resume. Because if he loses the Warriors, it'll be like, oh, the Warriors beat him again. He got to the conference finals again. You lose the Mavs up 2-0. Guy, who the fuck is on their team? I mean, it's like Luka just dribble. Somehow does something crazy and scores.
I know. I think the Suns, if somehow the Suns ended up in the finals against, which was not the question I asked you, but if they ended up in the finals, you would root your ass off for, Boston or for Milwaukee.
But here's how I determine, would I avoid going out to dinner with someone or going to play golf because the game's on? And I do that with the Warriors.
Right.
I don't do that with anything else. I do that with football. Like I'll do that in 2 weeks with the PGA Championship. I will not do that with like Bucks Suns, which is sad.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's only one finals that for most people, there's only one team right now for most people that elevates to that level if they're a casual fan, and that's the Warriors.
I think
the ratings tell us that.
To me, Warriors Bucks would be awesome. Going for back-to-back. The best player in the world, like, can they take him down? And hopefully Middleton will be
I think Warriors Celtics would look pretty incredible too.
I do too, but it's like Tatum and Brown to me combined aren't Giannis. Like Giannis is just like a man amongst boys right now. I'm rooting for the Bucks. Is that because your Bucks take you thought they were flash in the pan?
No, I was thinking about that the other day, but that's not part of this take. No, I think either one of those series would be great. Giannis is very likable. Yeah, I put the Bucks in the Mavs championship category, though. I think at the end of that conversation, I agreed with you that they're not the. I mean, the history of the NBA is dynasties, and I'm saying that win championships, and I denigrated them. But I think they also might end up being in the category of championship contender that only gets one, but maybe they do get 2 or 3. I mean, Giannis is going ridiculous.
Well, guy, if he beats the Celtics by himself, I mean, their second best players on the sideline. They're up 2-1. I mean, I'm rooting for them tonight. Like I want the Celtics.
See, I root for series differently. Maybe I want that series to be even. Like I want 7 games is what I want. You know what I mean? So like if the Celtics win, that I'm rooting for who. If the Celtics were up 2-1, I'd be rooting for the Bucks tonight. Like I want because that series is so unique to NBA basketball. Just like the Warriors are unique. Like I want as many of their games as possible. Because I think the reality is the next Eastern Conference series is not going to be as good as Bucks Celtics.
No, it's not. Because whoever wins that series is going to win.
Yeah. So I want more of this series. You know what I mean?
True. I'm only a lock to watch this series probably the next Monday and Wednesday because they're just on right. I guess they're on the whole time against the Warriors. I just don't move my life. It's crazy. I don't even care. Like if they weren't on tonight, I wouldn't seek them. But they're on before the Warriors. I'm kind of excited. It just leads me in. Do I move my life around for you? That's how I think about it.
But that's different than seeking because you might be at home looking for something to watch like, oh, shit, Celtics, Bucks.
The difference, though, is with Eastern Conference Finals, they start really early. So I seek around like 6:30 to 9 range in my life on television. Sometimes you're like, damn, it's already the fourth quarter of an Eastern Conference. It sneaks up on you if you're not locked in.
David says Game 7s are better in theory than in practice, in my opinion.
I agree.
I was thinking about that. Well, I mean, if game is great, then it's great. If it's not, then it's not. And sometimes games suck, and then it's not any good. I was thinking about this yesterday, though. Part of the Game 7 is not just the game. It's the buildup.
Greatest 2 words in basketball, Pat Riley said, right?
Pat Riley. Yeah, I mean, part of it for me, because I was thinking about this watching Winning Time last night, and it concludes, I don't know if you've watched the last episode.
Have it. Is it good?
It is good. It's like
so is it going to be... They're going to be more.
I think so, because I saw Jeff Pearlman, who wrote the book Showtime, say end of season 1. He made it seem like there was going to be more.
He's a part of it.
Yeah, I don't know if he was part of writing the script or consulting or whatever, but one of my takes I was going to say for the podcast tomorrow was I view Winning Time differently than I did at the beginning of watching it, like the way they treat Jerry West, and I was very anti the way they treat Jerry West. Now, listening to the book, I've changed my opinion on that.
Jerry's a little questionable.
Just, I think when you're doing a show, like the book covers like a decade plus. This is one show trying to represent Jerry West in like one season of basketball.
And not even, it's like 6 months, right? Start of the season, basically, the draft to the playoffs.
Yeah. And you know, like Jerry West's book came out in what year? Like 2013 or, you know, it came out in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So his book, you can't reference his book, for example, in this show. But listening to the book, like there's one section in the book I just got to, Perlman quotes like 7 different people, just one quote after the other. Basically, like, Jerry's insane. Like, that's kind of and then it talks about why Jerry is the way he is, like his upbringing, an abusive father, he used to sleep with a shotgun under his bed in case his dad tried to beat him. Right? Like crazy, crazy stuff. Like Jerry, I think the name of his book was My Tortured and Charmed Life. Like there was a lot going on there. And I think in this show, you're trying to get that across to people. And when you're trying to get it across in 9 episodes that cover 6 months, like you kind of have to go to the extreme. I think some of the stuff may not be true. From reading the book, it doesn't seem to me like they misrepresent like Jerry. You know what I mean?
You saying Jerry's a little nuts?
Yes. Yeah. Now, it's easy for me to say, different than if you experienced it. But anyway, my point on Game 7 was, part of Game 7 to me is just about like the hour leading up to the game is just the best. You know, kind of the Kentucky Derby's 2 minutes long. But for people who like horse racing, all the lead up is incredible.
Part of it's going. I mean, literally everyone I follow on Instagram somehow is at the Kentucky Derby. I'm like, I've never been to Louisville, Kentucky yet. Every single person. Now, a lot of them are famous. I don't necessarily know them personally, but somehow they all make it there. Every fucking one, whether they live in LA.
I think a lot of people go to Kentucky Derby parties too, where they dress up, you know.
I'm talking about they're actually there because they're taking pictures from like their suite.
Really?
It's crazy. I swear to God, of the couple thousand people I follow on Instagram, it felt like half of them were at the Kentucky Derby.
Wow.
You're right. Some of them, you know, you dress up for it, but yeah, I don't know.
We should go to the Derby.
Did you watch that live?
Oh, I wasn't gonna. I was sitting there at my parents' house in Davis on Saturday, and our buddy AJ texted me. He's like, I'm about to watch this race. And I just happened to, I was like, oh, I'd totally forgotten about it. And it just happened to be like 2 minutes to race time. So I pull it up on
when the horses are walking out to the field.
When I flipped it on, there was one horse getting kind of like cagey, like getting kind of angry.
Squirrely. Yeah.
And then they put that horse in the cage. And then the second they put him in the cage, it's like, ching, we're off. I was like, whoa, they don't even let that horse get settled in. They are gone.
Yeah, the moment the last horse is always in there, it's crazy how they just open and they go.
Did you watch it?
I did not, but I watched the obviously the highlight, that last minute and a half of his comeback.
Yeah.
Rich Strike?
Rich Strike, yeah.
It is one of the
named after Rich Scangarello.
You're watching the above view and you're just thinking, you know the outcome. You're like, how's this possible? You know, how is this? It's like when you rewatch a game and a team's down 10 or 28-3. Even when you rewatch it, or a guy's like 3 shots down with 2 holes and he wins the major, you're like, how's he going to do this? Even though you know the outcome, and then you just watch him come, especially because when it kind of starts, he's in the middle of the pack at the end. It's like, how's he going to maneuver his way around all this? It's crazy.
Didn't you think he got kind of lucky?
Well, yeah, because it opened up on the inside for him to go.
Everybody moved out of the way,
right?
It was wild. Everybody just like moves.
Where he doesn't get lucky though is the speed he still had left.
100%. But I'm not diminishing it at all. Everybody who ever wins a championship needs some luck. But it's wild how it just, to me, just everything lined up. Maybe that's a better way of putting it.
Was that the longest shot that's ever won the Kentucky Derby?
At 80-1. I don't know if I thought somebody said there was like a 90-1 shot back in like 1913. But I don't know if that's true or not. Hold on,
porn bots.
Let me go stripping. Stand by.
Boo, block. When you say 80-1 out, like I'm not some horse race guy, I would be like, that would be around it, but I would imagine 110, 120 had just in the history of the race.
Yeah.
I would imagine 100 plus has won one of the Triple Crown, you know, one of the 3 races, maybe not the Kentucky Derby. Because I don't think the Kentucky's the longest one, right?
You know, which one is the stakes?
There's the Belmont and the Preakness. One of the 2 is longer, I think, coming up. It's like the longest one, so you kind of got to hold back when you got a fast horse and let it rip.
Yeah.
Which was this guy holding back, or was he just caught in a deal and he couldn't?
I think he's just kind of caught. I mean, it's kind of Pretty incredible. See, that's an example of like I flipped it on at tip-off of Game 7, basically. And since I don't know a lot about horse racing, I didn't have a great context for what. If I had watched an hour of lead up, I would have probably enjoyed it more because I would have had a better context for what was happening.
Were they hyping it up though after he won? It's like one of the greatest.
They started going
long
nuts.
shots.
But like if I had known ahead of time there's a horse who was a Friday replacement, like as of Friday wasn't in the race, or as of Thursday was not in
He
the race.
wasn't. Oh, the horse just got in.
Yeah, you know.
What was the reaction to the box of their owners? Going nuts? Were they crying? I mean,
I didn't see that shot. I saw them when they did the interview, and it was like the trainer, his dad, the owner. Trainer's dad could barely speak, tears. Owner was talking about how he was like, I was out of horse racing. I was done with the sport, and this guy talked me back into it. You know, the trainer taught me back into it.
can you imagine the night for those two? They just won the Kentucky Derby with an 80-1 horse. Now
Did
they
you
can
see the
sell
horse?
that horse. No, I didn't.
Afterwards,
No, going
dude,
nuts.
I don't even understand this part about it, but like they're riding,
killed
you
it?
know, somebody else, glue stick, somebody else comes over. There's the other horse. They like guide him to the winner's circle, you know? And the horse that won, Rich Strike, kept like biting at the horse. And I think he bit the leg of the other guy. And the other guy's like punching him in the head to get him to chill out. I don't quite understand what's happening.
Horse was amped up, man.
I don't understand horse personalities, but he was picking a fight. He just won. He was trying to pick a fight. Jesus Christ.
Thank you.
Oh, Black and White Network says, caught the last two pods today, gentlemen. Play action with Haberman Middlekauff. Has potential as a name. Keep grinding on YouTube. Rhodes BW Sports. Is this a form of like advertising? Or you guys like, are they advertising their pod on our pod? Is that what that
This is
is?
the second one they've given us?
Yeah, which I got no, you give me, I got no problem with it. I just, seems like a good little, good way to, you know,
Oh,
get in the mix.
It was $100?
Yeah, that's why I said Jesus Christ.
Well, maybe I'm going blind. I thought it was 10. So it was like, oh, thanks. Black and White Network. You don't have to do that.
Thank you. You don't. But we appreciate that very much. Thank you for your support and the kind words and the listening to the podcast.
Rich Strike, man. I just love that you can sell the semen for so much money. That's where you make your cash. Be able to
that horse. And this is the other part about horse racing I don't quite understand. It was like basically sold for 30,000 or bought for 30,000, which actually, now that I say it out loud, sounds like a lot for a horse.
No, I mean, I think like when you have a horse that can race, potential to get in big races, not even the Kentucky Derby, I do think they go for 15, 20, 30,000, you know, like a thoroughbred horse that can run. Now, it's also like a stock. Like you bet 30,000, the horse you just might have a horse you can never flip it. Can you imagine that $30,000, what he's going to turn that thing into?
Well, exactly.
It's the greatest investment of his life. Now, he might tell you, well, we've spent $500,000 over the years, right, on different horses that have never turned out to shit. So when we might end up breaking even. It's like Phil Mickelson. It's like, yeah, I lost $40 million, but I've also made, you know, some cash over the years.
Dude, we 146,000 subs. We good on subs. Sweet. I'll check you guys out. We'll check you guys out. Thank you. And congrats to you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Been in this YouTube game.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's fantastic. That's like when did you see the clip of the guy at the F1 race? Was it maybe it was the Kentucky, was the F1 race the Derby with the British guy interviewing people and he thought Paolo Banchero was Patrick Mahomes?
It was the F1 pit lane.
The F1. And he's like,
he does kind of look, you know, the curly hair. I wouldn't. Would you have known who that was standing there? I wouldn't.
I mean, it's easy to say you would have, but I can see in the moment a glance of this. That guy doesn't know anybody.
I don't mean when I was interviewing. Someone would have had to tell me. I just meant like when he was talking. I didn't know who he was talking.
I recognized him, yes, but I've been on Paolo Banchero for a couple of years now.
See, it felt like that event. Also, follow a lot of people on Instagram that attended that one. That one was a little like Brady, MJ, LeBron, Beckham. You know. Paulo, a lot of Miami heavy hitters.
So did Brady skip the Derby?
Brady did not go to the Kentucky Derby. He went to this thing. You see when they podiumed, they put on football helmets and walked out.
I did not see that.
Did you watch any of that race?
I did not.
Me either.
It was not timing-wise convenient for me.
I don't even know what time it would have been on.
I had to like search to find it too. ABC, yeah, at noon, but I had to like search to find out what time it was on.
Yeah. Because usually they come on internationally early, right?
Right. Like
When you say they kind of
6 a.m.,
6, 7 a.m., yeah. I don't even know. Honestly, I would assume Verstappen won because everyone was talking about it.
Verstappen won. Only I saw a picture of him today. Which
Well, here's what I don't
let me know
understand
when he
as a
doesn't.
guy that knows absolutely nothing about racing. How is Lewis just getting his ass kicked? Because Lewis went from Lewis was like Tiger Woods or Tom Brady. He won every single race to now the other dude that podiumed or finished top 5. I saw F1. I follow him on Instagram. Only one guy this year has finished top 5 in every single race, and it was the other Mercedes guy. So it's not like, because I keep hearing, oh, Mercedes, their car's down. Well, the other Mercedes guy's been fine. Is Lewis, is he content? Is he not grinding? Like, if this was an American sport, Skip would have a lot of takes on Lewis.
Do you think, I wonder if Stephen A and Mad Dog should debate Lewis more? Because the internet tells me everyone's watching F1.
Well, the ratings are pretty high. I saw someone tweeted out, I think it was Sam Esfiriardi, wrote, like I said, go quick, you can't butcher it. Was that is it a coincidence that ABC carried the F1 race in Miami and not the NBA playoff game? They put the NBA playoff game on ESPN.
Yeah, I saw somebody else say, one of the TV guys, I think, some TV ratings analyst said something about that contract's up, so they're trying to get them back. So by putting them on ABC, the ESPN F1 contract, so they're trying to, massage the F1 people.
And would you imagine the F1 contract's going to be a little more expensive for ESPN this time around?
Yeah.
With the expansion of American interest?
Yes.
I do. I'm on a couple text chains that people do kind of, follow.
Yeah. I think
if you are kind of into it, it's maybe fun.
Yeah. Racers are all young, good-looking guys, so everyone, it's just easy to here's the other thing about it that's easy. There's only like 20 dudes.
No, it's pretty easy.
And the brands, the brands are Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull.
You could argue, I think ideally Live Golf, you just get the best 20 people and you get the richest people to sponsor. And it's just every week is for a lot of cash all over at sweet places.
Would golf work if it in racing, if it's just the same guy wins every week?
I mean,
but that's what's different, right? Is you wouldn't structure it. Basically, F1 is kind of structured the way they score the FedEx Cup in golf.
Yeah, when you're ahead, it's hard to lose.
Yeah.
You all start at scratch each week, so it's like whoever's playing well. Like that would be my question. If you just randomly to the draw, and you'd have to be a diehard F1 racing, you'd probably have to ask like Toto this. If I just flip coins every week, right, or pull the names out of a hat, 1 through 20, like if Lewis, instead of starting 1 and 2 the last 7 years, if he had averaged 8th or 10th or 11th, would he have won the same amount or no chance?
No chance, right?
You wouldn't.
I don't know either, but
I
got to go with no chance.
Yeah. Part of it is he's pulling every time. That's the thing with NASCAR, clearly, is like their polls, like the same guy doesn't start 1 every week. Doesn't feel like back in the day when I kind of paid attention.
Somebody said, yeah, we need an American team. But isn't Haas an American? Is Haas not American?
I think we need like a real American team, like Chevy. Or like, what about this? Like Facebook. Someone with just an unlimited amount of money. Who's our greatest American company?
Amazon.
Is Amazon worldwide?
I mean, the products come from worldwide.
But it feels like they do most of their business. Like, are they delivering in like Spain? Doesn't feel like it, does it?
Haas is American, really low budget compared to everyone else. No, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. What if we went Amazon? Like that was the name, and it was like a Chevy or Ford chassis or whatever the fuck it's called.
Largest American companies by employees. Walmart is 1.
Okay, that's
how about CVS Health? CVS team, they're 4th. Don't
totally hate that, and I'm a sucker for a good CVS. It's easy to say. Yeah. CVS.
We work. I'll read you some of the largest.
It does feel like CVS, the branding, if you didn't know what a CVS was,
totally
it would work, right?
Because people worldwide would have no clue what CVS is. And it would
look like CVS has unlimited money and they're coming for Ferrari and Mercedes.
Like Apple, Microsoft, Berkshire Hathaway, United Health Group.
Apple could just Apple.
What about
Tesla?
Dell. Dell feels like it'd be a team.
I think Dell works.
Boeing, maybe they should shift into cars.
I mean, I think we're on to something. Now, the problem is you can't add it. Like, they're not going to add two drivers, right? There's not going to be 22 instead of 20. So you have to
you got to
boot
replace.
one out.
I don't know. How does that work?
Can
Get
you boot
Ford in the
Haas?
F1 game, like when they built Shelby. Yeah.
You ever watch that movie?
Ferrari never won again.
No.
I don't know if they have since, but as of that movie, they hadn't won again. They're back.
I think they're good again. Well, what team's Max on? Red Bull?
Red Bull.
Well, that's a good example. Red Bull doesn't do cars, right?
No,
why couldn't CVS get involved or Apple?
Tito's.
Yeah. No drunk, driving, could be tough.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I'm just looking. Is there no alcohol? Are there no alcohol teams?
No, because I don't think there are. I mean, it's a good question. Definitely in NASCAR there are. Is Amazon worldwide though? Like if I'm just in Argentina, Argentina,
Got it.
Or Chile, or Spain, or Germany, I can just order like you know what I need today? Slippers. Can I just get slippers delivered this week? That's just how it works.
YouTube,
not terrible.
Team YouTube, good logo.
Key is you just need. Problem with these huge corporations is like. You have to have one guy with a vision, like the Shelby, like he had a vision.
Yeah.
Someone at Ferrari one time had a vision. Like obviously there's an integral individual. One, I bet if we went to the Mercedes headquarters in like Germany, they'd be like, Schwanz Greichenberger had loved racing more than his own family. And everything we do, like he's the Belichick of the racing division, right? It has to be deep into your core. Maybe Elon has a guy that's helped develop the Tesla that's like loves racing and would be the guy to like lead that.
Yeah,
or you could do some cross Twitter sponsors too,
or just the Glazers or Stan Kroenke would just buy a team just because they can.
Doesn't feel like they turn over that much. Again, just watch 4 seasons.
Well, the one guy lost his team, right?
Which one?
The purple team. What was that? Like Force India? Didn't that guy lose his team?
He got in trouble.
Yeah, I thought that was the team.
Well, because the one new owner came in and put his son on, right?
And I'm pretty sure isn't that son the guy that's the other racer for Mercedes now, George Russell, or is that the different guy? Am I wrong? I could be wrong about that.
It's a good question.
I think the kid
is pretty good.
Or no, maybe it's Stroll. Maybe it's Lance Stroll from Aston Martin. Feels like that's the kid. Somebody will tell me.
There's just one team. It's like something Williams, which like in their heyday was badass. But then the Bengals or the Raiders in the 80s. But then the business grew so much and everything got so expensive, they've fallen behind.
That's the one where their operating budget's like $10 million or something.
Well,
ridiculous.
See, they had this sweet racer the last couple of years. Well, he's now Lewis's right-hand guy, and who's now better than Lewis.
Okay,
he's
so
the
that's
second Mercedes, the Russell
guy.
That's
that guy. Okay.
Yeah, so he was basically be the equivalent of like playing for the A's or playing for the Raiders, and then the fucking Cowboys sign you, right? Or the Yankees sign you. Like the Mercedes, like, we'll take him, because he was getting like top 6s with Williams, and they don't have the cash. Like,
well, remember that was the deal too. Oh, Lance Stroll is the son. Wasn't that the deal with Charles Leclerc, who was racing for somebody else, and like Haas or something? Like, yeah, his dream is to race for Ferrari, and then of course they took him.
Yeah, it just feels like contracts aren't too binding in that sport. Like the moment I want you at the end of the season, I can grab you.
Well, I think their contracts I don't know how long their contracts are. I remember from the show just be like, yeah, maybe his contract wasn't up. Maybe it was just time to go. A trade.
Because the one dude, Ricardo, is pretty annoying.
Yeah, everyone loves him, but he's a little.
Yeah, I find him pretty annoying in the show.
I think the self-promotion levels are very high, I would say.
I'm more of a Verstappen, the Russell kid type guy.
I like Leclerc, the Ferrari driver.
I like
Verstappen. Fan of Verstappen.
Who's Lando Norris? I kind of like.
Yeah, I love Lando Norris. Is he still racing for the team with orange?
McLaren? I think he's on Ferrari too, isn't he?
He's McLaren. Lando Norris is McLaren Mercedes. Ferrari is Carlos Sainz has made his way over to Ferrari, John, and finished third the other day.
Yeah. Do you think if you drive for Ferrari, they also give you Ferraris?
Hell yes, I think that. Of course.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if you did follow, like you said, it would be pretty easy to
I mean,
follow.
we barely
because
follow, and this is a fun conversation.
Well, I know, because think about, like, if you
And
just
people
follow
in the
your
chat know.
well, if you just follow your NFL team, right? NFL has way more players than even baseball that has 25. NFL has double. It's pretty easy to know the majority of the guys after a couple games that are playing for your team, right? You like know your nickel corner, you know your backup running back. 20 guys, and really like 7 of them really matter. It's a very consumable sport if you're kind of into it. Of course.
Well, to your point, if you equate it to a football roster, think about like hardcore fans have debates about who the backup truly, right? Who the third corner should be, or the nickel. So if
Get
you're a fan of
Lenore in there.
Yeah, if you're a fan of a team, you have conversations about, like, if you're a hardcore fan, about 20 guys on your own team. Every fan base has to have conversations about their 20. Now, the 20 are just all the 20. That's the whole roster. Imagine it'd be like if there was one football team, period, just one team. Everybody would have deep conversations about Jimmy Ward, should he be back? Right?
Yeah.
It's pretty.
I actually watched, because I
great.
had watched the Drive to Survive. I think it was either on Netflix or Amazon Prime. It was just called Schumacher, on Michael Schumacher.
Yeah. Was that good?
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those, he was at a lower level, and they're like, either a guy got hurt or the team was out of it. And they're like, fuck it, let's just give the Schumacher kid a chance. Within like 2 races, I mean, he won
This
or
is
finished
Michael?
second. Michael. And then he became, for like 10 years, he was the equivalent of Lewis. You could argue he's one of the probably top 5 most famous. I remember about him when we were kids, Michael Schumacher. He just used to win all the time. But then he wasn't in the documentary. And the whole time you're thinking is like, why is his wife's in it? His teammates are in it. Like his rivals in it. Like, where is Michael Schumacher? In 2013, he gets into a skiing accident, but there aren't really details in it. No one's really seen him since. Like, they don't know if he's a vegetable, paraplegic. He's just gone. It just, you Google it, you can't really find much about it. He's still alive, but no one sees him. It's kind of a crazy thing.
Well, wasn't that the deal that like he was kind of the mentor or the idol for Charles Leclerc, and that's why one of the reasons Charles wanted to race for Ferrari? I thought that was from the show.
Could be. Yeah, because I think he stopped racing probably in the mid 2000s. So I think he would have been involved up till 2013. He was fine. I think he was just, a member of Ferrari or whatever, basically like the equivalent of like Joe Staley still being around. I mean, on a higher level, it'd be like Brett Favre still being around the Packers or whatever. But he got in this accident and no one sees him. Like, he doesn't, I don't know if he can talk. I tried to find information about it. You couldn't. It was fascinating because when you're watching a documentary and you go to a wiki and you're like, well, I'm an hour in. I haven't seen him, but I've seen his wife. So clearly his family's cool with it. He's not dead on Wikipedia. What is going to happen? And then they were just skiing in the Alps.
Apparently, I've got a different guy Leclerc.
Because Schumacher would be older.
So who's the guy? The guy I'm thinking of died, maybe like a friend of his. Again, I'd have to go back like 5 seasons of F1, but obviously someone else knows. So
wasn't there on one of the Drives to Survives on like the minor league, a kid died? Do you remember that on one of the early episodes? Hit the wall, died.
Yeah.
Like a Saturday race. I think they do Saturday, like the second level, second tier. Some in-depth F1 where we know nothing.
It's not what we planned on today, but we're just hanging. It does seem like Ja is out. Is it official? Last I saw like an hour ago was doubtful. Is he officially out?
Yeah, I don't know. You could argue what we were going to talk about. We just save for tomorrow because it's pretty good at this point.
Okay, I'll tell you one part. Charles's godfather died.
Charles who?
Leclerc.
Oh.
One thing I learned, working off this Scangarello clip podcast reaction that a lot of people have been talking about. His name, we've actually been saying it wrong the whole time.
Yeah. How does it?
Scangarello. Scangarello is what Bob was juicing calls him on the podcast. Scangarello. The title to this live show is misleading. Well, if we save the Scangarello topic for tomorrow, it's not only misleading, it'd be a accidental, but a complete lie. Yeah. That's not the title of this YouTube is Trey Lance Draft Truth Finally Revealed. But because we're going on 45 minutes and we're going to do a podcast tomorrow, John, your thing is, do we save that topic for tomorrow?
I think we do.
Okay. I'm fine with that, which means that Sox Nation 24, you and others that came for that, we've lied to you. But hopefully you got something else out of this that, you something else beautiful blossomed.
But as one thing you realize as you get older, you're lied to a lot in your life, right? Your parents lie to you when you're young. People lie to you as you age. Lies are kind of part of life. Now, we don't hang our hat on being misleading here, but it just kind of organically happened. We didn't plan on it. But it is kind
of
juicy.
Like that love triangle going on at Barstool right now. I saw something about that on the internet.
I missed that. What's going on?
I can barely follow
it. One overall take, I think we might be putting a little too much stake into what a fucking quarterback coach saying on a podcast. Just overall, like his impact. He doesn't get to. He's not a decision maker. He's not the play caller. He ain't in charge of the draft. People ask his opinion. He gives one. Cool. Like, I've been a part of draft meetings where even if it's a coach's best friend, if his opinion's different with other people, like, okay, it's great. You don't get to get your opinion. It's like in a draft room, the famous Tom Donahoe Howie move, right? Where Tom clearly wanted them to draft the other guy. Howie's high-fiving, goes to him. Tom wanted the guard or whatever, and they drafted the pass rusher. Every single draft that for the most part, they show the draft room, right? First round. And most people are hugging after every pick, right? There's jubilation. Everyone's faking it. Not everyone's actually happy. Because there are people that, even in like the top 10, let's say I'm a Jets scout and I'm their number one Joe Douglas's guy. What if I thought I guess this is a bad example because they wouldn't have had the opportunity to get Stingley. But Joe Douglas has said, they would have taken Sauce over Stingley. What if I thought that was just wrong? I don't think Sauce is worth a top 5 pick. But what am I going to do? Be pouting in the back when the cameras come in and we make the pick? You kind of got to.
Right.
It's not universal, right? It's
right.
Like Twitter. You see a Twitter reaction. Everyone's dunking on someone. Well, there's a lot of people probably think these people are idiots. It's no different in a draft room. Same. And coaches, they just parachute in like March 1st.
Yeah. But you're saying that people are putting too much stock in what Rich says.
Well, no, but I mean, we're going to do a deep dive on, and so did Grant, but it's like he didn't get, it wasn't his decision to make, and they clearly didn't listen to him, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting about it is that
I'm not anti his opinion or the take or the topic or anything.
Oh, okay.
My overall point is I think if you could get most assistant coaches on record around the league, they would give you a hard take that might be different than their organization, their head coach. What makes it unique is he goes to Kentucky and they're like, yeah, fuck, say whatever. They don't give a shit about what he's saying about Trey Lance and Zach Wilson and those guys, right?
Right.
He would never be allowed to do this podcast if he was the Niners quarterback coach to this day. Just like the defensive line coach, let's say for the Giants, are like, I would have not taken Thibodeau. He could never say that. He would never be allowed to talk. I guess is my point. Like, there are a lot of assistant coaches, you've met them along the years, that have strong opinions. Do you know where they're not allowed to give their strong opinions? On the record. They would never say. Usually they do cookie cutter shit, even though we've all been around these assistant coaches. They're very opinionated. That's their life's work, is whatever the position is.
Right.
And you're like, well, I didn't want this guy. They maybe coach this guy up.
Well, now that you can go on the record and you think that you're going to be right. I think what's interesting is, I think there's a few elements that are interesting, and we won't give away the next conversation, but partly he had that opinion. He has an opinion about players like Trey Lance, then was with him for a year, and now is basically getting his take on the record because he thinks it's going to fail. Right. But that, to me, the interesting part about it is here's somebody who's been in the room, the draft room, the scouting room, and now the quarterback room, and is giving no indication that, like, here was my original opinion, and I've changed my mind, right? And I think if Trey Lance had played a bunch of games last year, it'd probably get less attention. But we're trying to find every morsel of Trey Lance information we can get to try and figure out how good he's going to be and whether or not they can this thing that Kyle Shanahan did, which is the biggest thing he's ever done in his career, whether or not it's going to work, you know?
I guess not defending Rich. I don't know the guy, or I just don't think he would be alone in his opinions that I would not have done that. Right.
Yeah.
And I guess my overall point is I think you could go to every draft room for different players that are drafted really high, and you could find a lot of people. And sometimes specifically like that position coach, I would have rather had. We took Evan Neal. I wanted Charles Cross, right? We took Garrett Wilson. I said, hey, I think Traylon Burks has a higher upside. We took Chris Olave. I didn't see it, because that's just the nature. It's honestly what makes the draft so fascinating is like, it's fun for us to talk about and dive deep in. But I think what makes it really cool on the inside is in coaches and definitely general managers talk about this. They're like, I love discussion. We don't want anyone to be quiet. Every opinion's heard, but when we make a decision, we're all in it together. Well, that's easy to say. Like, what do you guys want to eat today? When you're a kid, and you're like, I want spaghetti. I want pizza. I want cheeseburgers. Well, eventually you decide, like, we're eating steaks. A couple people are going to be pissed, and it's easy to be like, yeah, we'll just move on. We're all made the decision together. Well, it's like, fuck, I wanted something else. I'm not happy about
it. But there are different people in that situation, right? Some people go, all right, at the end of the day, steak isn't the worst thing I'm eating, and they eat it, and it's fine. And other people go, oh, this isn't really what I wanted, and are pissed the rest of the night, right?
When I was in Philly, we had a specific player that the position coach said, I don't want this guy. I don't want to coach him. They drafted him anyway, and he failed there. And a lot of people thought was because the coach didn't give him much effort because he didn't like him.
Sandbagged it.
Exactly. And I think you'd be naive. The difference is then it was a less important position and a play. It ultimately didn't matter that much. Like this is, I would say with a quarterback, like beside Trevor Lawrence, I bet in all the buildings with Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones, there were some people like, I don't know, man. I don't see it. Drafting this guy this high or trading this many picks or Mac Jones 15th. Like, this is kind of crazy, coach. And hell, maybe they don't ever say that because they're like, you don't say it to Bill, but like, I would not do this. Justin Fields maybe a little less because you're like, where are we going to might as well take a swing?
Yeah. He didn't like Fields either.
No. But this guy has a clear type quarterback he likes, right? Mm-hmm. I think they brought him to Philly because they tried to actually make Carson much more controlled. Remember? Like you bring in a Kyle Shanahan guy, keep him under control, and then you realize you couldn't. This guy actually is Kyle Shanahan Jr. Like, isn't this how Kyle thinks?
Sometimes you can't, somebody too similar, you can't be around. Chris says Scangarello leaving more a testament to Lance's ability or his own ability to coach. Well, you made the point when he left, like it also was a testament to the job he got.
Well, 49er fans.
Didn't Kentucky finish second in their division in the SEC last year?
Guy, do you know how much the SEC pays? What would you guess Kentucky pays their offensive coordinator?
I'm guessing Scangarello is making I'm going to guess he's making like 875, 1 something in between there.
Yeah. Hard name to spell. Scangarello salary. Scangarello will earn $900,000. He is coaching at Kentucky, who has the last 3 years, beside Georgia, has easily been the best team in that side, and that includes Tennessee and Florida. And his salary increases every single year by $100,000. And I would imagine they have.
And if it's good, then by year 3, you're getting a new. I mean, if you have a great year, you get a new contract, an extension, whatever, a raise.
/ couldn't he immediately become an NFL offensive coordinator next year at double his salary?
Maybe.
I mean, he's just been an NFL guy for a while.
Yeah, but part of it, I don't know if that's Maybe. But he's been an NFL guy. No one's made him an NFL OC.
No,
But
he
it's
did.
possible.
He did with Fangio, and remember in 19.
Oh,
he
that's
failed.
right. That's right. You said that the other day. Yeah.
So you're right. It might take him a couple years, but
He might have. What if his quarterback ends up in the first round?
Okay, so exactly. So he's making a shitload of money. Was he making $900,000 to coach quarterbacks for the 49ers? Probably not, right?
It's extremely unlikely.
So he wasn't making 900 grand.
He wasn't allowed to do interviews.
It's not like he was making 100. He's probably making $500,000 here. So he's making good money. But he makes 900 to call the plays. And like you said, he can immediately, within 2 years, if they're really good, I mean, it's not inconceivable that he gets interviews at like lower mid-major programs, right? He's coached at UC Davis and other schools before, or gets another chance at the NFL. So I think I've seen a lot of people on social media like, he left to go to Kentucky. You mean fired? No, he got Kentucky's a real job, the offensive coordinator. Liam was just there. Now, the difference is, because I was thinking when you were talking about Rich, once he gets there, he's able to talk. Maybe the relationship ended a little weird here because it didn't feel like, and the Niners are probably more polarizing and a bigger brand in terms of the Trey Lance situation than even Jared Goff was. But it's not like Liam was going on the record shitting on Jared Goff last year when he went to Kentucky.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Rich never said, by the way, turns out we're not liars.
We'll pivot.
But we're still going to do, I have a theory on Scangarello that I'll share on tomorrow's pod. I was going to do it today, but we'll do it on the podcast tomorrow. I listened to it. It's not overt in the sense that he names him, but he does get asked about guys like Trey, and he kind of skips over it, skips over Trey, talks about Malik Willis instead. They're talking about like small school guys like Josh Allen. And obviously Trey is a small school guy, but he talks about Josh and then skips over Trey and goes to Malik Willis. So, there are things like that.
Do you know what's funny?
What?
I when I looked up his salary, he must have talked about this during spring ball. Mike Stoops, whatever the Stoops brother is. Mark Stoops. When I made the move a year ago with Liam, I knew what I was getting into. Now with Rich, I wanted it to be a 2-year commitment minimum. So there's time to train all the other guys on your staff. I've done that defensively. This year, Liam and I talked about it. Obviously, he left to go back to the Rams, so we couldn't do that. I wanted to make sure we had someone in place that we didn't this year, but I will as we move forward. This staff, the guys that I have on the other right now, will be trained to be coordinators by Rich. So he's kind of acknowledging, I knew Liam was kind of a shooting star. He could be gone in a year. Rich has to be here 2 years. So Rich is
interesting.
Rich is not viewed as a shooting star, but he does know the scheme, which clearly Mark values the Shanahan-McVay offense, right? Because I remember when he hired Liam last year, he talked about how much success those franchises were happening. He wanted a piece of that, and he went back to the well with Rich, but also he thinks Rich is not like some people are going to come grab him immediately.
He's going, yeah, not necessarily safe, but
safer for sure. Because isn't Liam like younger than us? Wasn't he like 35 years old?
Liam's young, yeah. And he had been at the Rams, came to Kentucky, then went back to the Rams, right?
Yeah.
Almost like McVay was like, hey, man, I found you an internship.
Well, how about this? Like, you go do this. You'll make $850,000. You'll get to call plays, and then you'll come back to me, and you'll be even more valuable.
Here's what I need you to do. Hey, Mark, trust me, this is a guy that's really good. You kind of place him there.
You think Kyle placed him there, or just said, take him?
No. Jay Dust says, Ham, circle of trust. Pod name.
Terrible.
Everyone just goes like this, like the Oregon O.
Circle of Trust would actually be a good podcast name for like a political, like just like that's where you come for the right information, like the Circle of Trust. Like if you had a political show, what's your show called? Circle of Trust.
Yeah.
It's where that no disinformation is allowed.
Mm-hmm. You're making a note?
I've written down, start a podcast network with all the fucking names of shows we got.
What have you written down?
I got a little, I can't give it all away to the people. Steal it.
I thought you had where you just wrote that one. You had a list of other.
I mean, basically, a lot of the ones that we had done.
Gotcha.
All of the ones we had done. I just wrote them all down.
Gotcha. Smart.
What was Tim's today?
I'm glad you're keeping track. The scout team. Are you adding circle of trust? Because I think that you would do this.
Yeah. It's in a different category of the circle of trust.
You mean it's on a different tier, or you wouldn't do it for you don't like it for our show?
Yeah, to me it has a connotation of like politics or something like serious, I would say. Like the delay of games, point of attack, like all that feels like
I think circle of trust could work. You think it's too serious?
I think it has a very serious feel to it. Like it feels like circle of trust coming up next with Ben Shapiro, Circle of trust coming up next with Rachel Maddow. Like it doesn't feel loose.
Yeah. I mean, the one, I guess.
Again, I like the name. I think that name is fucking sweet.
I kind of, to me, what I think of is Old School, the movie, Will Ferrell's scene where he's at therapy. I thought we were in the trust tree. I guess it's not the same as circle of trust. I think it's different, but that's the first thing
The trust tree is not terrible either. What's your podcast name? The Trust Tree?
Yeah. Upon further review. Anyway, so we delivered. We didn't lie. We got more. I got more theories on Scangarello for tomorrow.
Richie? That's the name I'd go by, Richie.
Richie. We got more spam. We'll take care of that real quick.
I knew a Richie growing up.
I.E.
I think so, yeah.
Jimmy was
Rich. Everyone called him Richie.
Jimmy ended up getting traded to the Giants. Just watch.
That feels doubtful.
I agree that it feels doubtful, but they do have kind of that awkward situation of quarterback.
Well, if he goes to the Giants, then he starts. So then they just bench Chandler Jones in training camp.
Well, they didn't pick up his fifth-year option, right?
No, he won't be on the team next year.
And they got a new coach.
Jimmy's a free agent, though. Could you just
Jimmy's a free agent. Yeah. Daboll's experience with Josh Allen, he would like, same as Garoppolo.
We sure the general manager likes Jimmy?
No, the problem is there's no places to send him, and you try to find places to send him. That's the problem.
That's why he's going to get cut. It's why he's going to get cut or be on the team. I mean, there's no.
But I mean, even if he got cut, somebody would sign him somewhere, right? So,
yeah. If he got cut, then a lot of teams would come into. You can get a guy for cheap. Part of trading him is the money part. Like he's available. Like I could see a lot of teams with quarterbacks bringing him in. I think his market changes when he's just on the unemployment line. Wait, you have no option? I get you for $3 million?
Sure. Yep.
That's why if I'm Jimmy, if you want the $27 million, you hope Trey struggles and you stay on the Niners. And then that's your best chance for you to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, if you were him, you might take a long time to rehab that shoulder.
Here's what I know. Jimmy Garoppolo's not getting $27 million next year if he's on another team. Unless somehow the Niners eat 10 of it and the other team pays 17. But if the Niners don't eat any of it, no team in the league is paying $27 million.
Yeah. Because they're not sending a pick with him.
It's insane. Who signs for $27 million, even a quarterback that's available in May or June? It's unheard of. It's never happened.
Barring significant injury.
Yeah, and you'd argue even if somehow there was a
you actually need 2 injuries.
There was a Darnold Jimmy swap, ultimately, okay, they swapped. They're just saving, or adding $9 million, and the Niners are taking back money, right? That wouldn't even be. Are they truly taking $27 million?
Yeah,
because they would look at it like Sam 8
of
get 9 or whatever.
And even if one team has
saved 9,
even if one team has a significant injury, you still almost need a second team to have one to create a market where somebody actually trades you something of significance.
Exactly.
But all right. Tomorrow on the show, we will delve further into Scangarello and his comments about Trey Lance, as discovered, by the way. I mean, credit to the discoverer by Grant Cohn. But I was going to give him credit when we did the topic tomorrow, but as discovered, unearthed by Grant. Plus, yeah, I got a theory for you with hindsight now, based on some of the stuff Scangarello said.
Who do you like in the NHL playoffs?
Boy, John, that's tough. I mean, Dallas Stars probably to win it all. Mike Modano, I think, is primed for a big postseason.
What about the Avalanche with Joe Sakic?
Sakic. Who's the other guy? Peter Forsberg.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like that crew.
Boy, it turns out we watched hockey in the early '90s, mid '90s.
So did everybody.
I collected cards.
Dallas Stars. What about Jeremy Roenick?
Obviously, Mario Lemieux.
Messier.
How many hockey players can we name? Messier. Did you say Brandon Roy?
Brandon Roy?
Patrick Waugh.
Yeah. Patrick Waugh.
Wayne Gretzky.
Who was the New Jersey Devils' incredible goaltender?
Martin
Brodeur.
You just made me think of Chris Chelios.
That's another good one. Roenick said that one. Who was the other Penguin with Mario? Jaromir
Jagr. Who was the young guy that the Blackhawks? Maybe he's still young. A few years ago, Jonathan Taves.
Yeah. What about old Florida guy who was a sweet goal scorer, Theo Fleury? Remember that name?
Theo Fleury. Yep.
Goal scorer.
Yep. I'm trying to look at the chat, but we got Steve Yzerman and Eric Lindros up here. Oh, did you say Messier?
Said Messier. Oh, who's their good-looking goaltender? Just always in a suit, looks really good. Won the Conn Smythe a couple years ago for the New York Rangers.
You're saying like a more current player.
Yeah, he's probably played in the last decade. Really good-looking dude. I don't know his name. Nashville Predators, Calgary. That might be it.
Patrick Marleau. We got some Sharks, right? You could do some Sharks.
Oh yeah. Who else with Marleau?
Joe Thornton.
Who's the golfer? Plays the Tahoe tournament. Brody always loved him.
There was a goalie there was always controversial too.
Who was the San Jose Sharks' best player? Who's a golfer? Who's just a good guy?
Not Joe Thornton.
No, not Thornton.
Long hair?
No, just kind of a normal looking guy. Always plays the Tahoe tournament. Can anyone in the chat help me out here?
Owen Nolan?
No, Lundqvist is the goalie. Yeah. Henrik, yeah. Henrik. Who was like the San Jose Sharks' best player for a decade in the chat? None of you guys watch hockey? You're not alone.
Couture, Pavelski?
Joe Pavelski. Joe Pavelski.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Paulina. She count?
Who is the guy that Aaron Andrews is married to?
L.A. King. Don't know his name, but was he? I think he was like a role player, like tough guy. Jared Stoll. Is that his name?
Stroll. Is there an R, or is there no Stroll?
But something like that. Are we in the right ballpark?
I think so. It sounds like we are. How about a Phoenix Coyote?
Gretzky. He's owns
him.
Remember they got booted. I thought.
Are they out? Are they not in the league anymore?
Well, remember his wife got in a little trouble for gambling or accounting purposes or something.
Minnesota Wild.
I mean, now we're
Niedermeyer. Oh, Timo Solane, John.
Timo
Solane. That's a good one. This is our edition of Hockey Who He Play For, just who he be.
I saw what's our buddy's name that covers kind of the Bills, but he's got a go TD long or go long. He's got Ty Dunn. He tweeted out that him and his buddies, like in college, when they were bored, would just play a game where they would just pick a team. You'd start with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. and there'd be 3 or 4 of the guys, and it'd be like a drinking game, and you would go around just name quarterbacks, right? It'd be like Jameis, Trent Dilfer, Sean King, and you just go till you
Brad
can't
Johnson.
name. Yeah, you just go till you can't name
Steve
quarterback, and
Young.
you go, and then whoever loses, you just go to the next team, right?
That's
and
good.
whoever's got a drink. It's like that's a pretty good game.
That's a good game. Paul Correa. I used to play a game. I remember where it was you'd say a name, and I had to name an athlete whose name started with the same letter that the previous guy's last name ended with, right? So if you said Steph Curry, then you'd say you'd have to find somebody whose name starts with a Y. That'd actually be a little more difficult.
The last names, like Steve Eiserman, would that work?
Yeah, Eiserman would work. Or the last letter of the last name. So you'd have to end with Curry would not be a C, it'd be a Y. So then I guess, yeah, Y would be tough.
Would Eiserman work, or does it?
I don't know. Name? Yeah, usually it had to be the first letter of the next name.
That'd be borderline.
But Y's make it very hard.
Yannick Ngakoue?
Yannick Ngakoue. Does that one end with a Y too, or it end with an E?
Might end with an E, let's just say. What would E be?
And
Evander Kane?
Just all hockey now. I like that.
Hard.
Yeah, ends with an E. Yeah. So I play this type of game with my son in the car. He loves it. It's, that tweet, I see it every once in a while. I saw it the other day. Like, dudes will just sit around naming random athletes. And it's really true. I mean, have you seen that tweet? Someone will just tweet like, dudes will just sit around naming random athletes. And then everyone retweets it with the names of random
Well, here's
athletes.
The thing. I think as you get older, we don't have kids or whatever, you just have less time in your life. But you spent from like 10 years old, probably to like 30, 20 strong years, if you're a sports fan, watching a lot of sports. You're like, I'm not just going to throw away all that information. Like, I remember Marvin Bernard in the outfield. You want to have a conversation about like the 1997 Giants? I just have some information. It's like the smart kid in class that knows about like World War II. And like, you remember the Korean War? And you're just like, God, I should have listened. I don't know. I can't add to the conversation. But then it comes up like, do you remember that Supersonics team that took the Bulls to 6 games? You're like, oh my God, I love Def Let Shrimp. You have the information, so you got to use it. Like, we just have information for 20 years. Like, I'm never going to have that type of information again. Like, you can't just talk about the Orioles in 2020 like you could in 1997. Now that might be a bad example because they're terrible now. No, like, even if you were 12, you wouldn't care about them. They were good when we were kids. But it's like, how many guys from like Cal Ripken's team could you name? Several?
Yeah.
It's probably not even, it'd be hard for a kid to understand because Cal Ripken's like 95 Oriole team was like an NFL team, right? They were pretty important to like society in sports.
They were.
Was Rafael Palmeiro on that team?
Rafael, Mark McLemore, Chris Hoyles.
Was Messina their ace?
Messina. I don't know if Ben McDonald was still there. Brady, Anderson. I don't know. Chris Devereaux. I don't think was still there. They have Robbie Alomar on that team? Probably not. Not that Robbie didn't get there, I think, for a couple years.
When did he spit? Was that on the Blue Jays?
Robbie Spit and John Hirschbeck. I think he was a Blue Jay. John Hirschbeck was the umpire.
Hirschbeck the guy that goes to Giants games, or is that someone different?
Somebody different, yeah. Eddie Murray was on that Orioles team,
and he was like 50 at the time.
So,
can you imagine social
Armando
media?
Benitez might have been their closer.
You imagine social media? Current player spits in umpire's face. He gets suspended for the year. What would your guess be?
I don't think he got suspended for the year.
Like 10 games or something?
That was going to be my guess, was 10 games.
My little brother's kid's getting in a lot of trouble for spitting.
Just spitting on the ground?
Just doing keeps spitting and he won't stop. Then he laughs.
Yeah, and telling him no probably only hurts.
He's like a dog. He just won't listen. 5 games.
5 games, yeah.
Times were. What would you feel?
And he apologized.
Feels like you'd get a little more now, don't you?
I think you would, yes.
Loogie to the face?
Yeah. Well, I'd rather be punched. as long as you don't break a jaw or something.
Alomar later said he was prompted to spit on Hirschbeck when the ump began using racial insults, particularly one about his mother. Hirschbeck denied this claim, saying that if he used any vulgar language, it was after he was spit on, not before. Davey Johnson never divulged what he heard at home plate, only saying, I think they're both guilty.
Interesting.
I used to respect him a lot. He had a problem with his family when his son died. This is
Hirschbeck's son had died. Yeah, that's right.
I know that's something real tough in life, but after he just changed personality-wise, he just got real bitter. That thing got ugly.
What year was that?
97.
97. Luckily, Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire saved baseball.
Honestly, it's pretty good perspective. If that's the worst thing Robbie has ever done in his life, he'll lead a really good life. Hirschbeck said, people make mistakes. You forgive, you forget, you move on.
Spitting in somebody's face is a major line to cross.
Agreed, but the one thing I would say of all the sports, spitting is just a big part of baseball. Not at people, but it's part of when Romo spit and JJ Stokes, like who's spitting on each other in football. In baseball, you're always spitting.
You are, but I mean, part of that is like, did he have tobacco in his mouth, Robbie Alomar, when he did it?
People have spit on umpire shoes, right?
I would say very different.
Very different.
Somebody's face.
And did he load up Loogie if he didn't?
Check the tape. Harold Baines. Jeffrey Hammond. Jeffrey Hammond was a good young player. He was on that Orioles team. All right. This has been quite a display today.
Yeah. Again, you have this knowledge. He's going to die. It's like, they say the bank doesn't follow your hearse. Well, as you're like 50, who are you really talking about? Like the 1998 Baltimore Orioles lineup with, it's only going to die. Right. So you got to use it when you knowledge. Can. You got to utilize it.
Jamie Moyer, Scott Erickson, Ben McDonald was on that team. Mark Armando was not the closer.
Jim Thome
was
on the team.
Staff.
Jim Thome
I was talking
about
the Orioles. Which team are you?
What team did he start on? Oh, the Indians.
Wait, where did he go after that?
Where did Thome get big? He started on the Phillies? He started somewhere.
Oh, he went to the Phillies after. Yeah. Well, he played third base at first for Cleveland. Then he went to first.
He replaced someone, I thought.
He was in Cleveland. I couldn't remember his second team. His second team was Philly. Did he only play two teams?
No. Holy shit.
He played Indians, he played for the White Sox.
Phillies, White Sox, Dodgers, Twins, Indians, Phillies, Orioles.
Yeah, that's right.
Long career from a man.
You know who the highest paid Oriole this year is?
Don't they have the lowest payroll in baseball?
Chris Davis, who is retired, who hasn't played baseball in like 3 years.
How much he making?
I want to say it's like $18 million.
They cut him?
I don't think he's played since like 2019. He didn't play in 2020. He didn't play in 2021.
I remember reading a Sports Illustrated article about him.
17.
I felt really bad. Didn't he go from being really good to just sucking, couldn't hit anything? Had the lowest batting average in baseball?
Broadside of a barn. John, so he's got one of these. Oh, maybe he's not highest paid. He's making $9 million this year. But he's actually...
No chance they got a $9 million player on their team.
I think he's actually making more than that. This is 2023. I think he's making more than that this year. This year he's making $17 million, but he signed a 15-year, $42 million contract with them. So he's next year making $9 million, then the next year making $9 million, then in 2025 he's making $9 million, then in 2026 he's making $3.5 million, then $3.5 million, then $3.5 million, then $3.5 million, then $3.5 million. In 2032 he'll make $3.5 million. In 2033, he'll make 1.4, and he'll make 1.4 in 2034, 2035, 2036, and 2037.
You know where they say you get screwed if you get on fixed income? That's true if you make $50,000 at inflation. When you bank $9 million, hell, even by the time you get to the $1 million, that still doesn't suck at all.
That's pretty phenomenal. Yeah, is there a number you would consider doing a buyout with them? They probably wouldn't do it, right? But you would consider it.
You
Like,
would
hey,
only consider it to me if you really had something you felt confident to do the deal with the money. Otherwise, no point. I'd be fascinated. Do they cut you one check? Do they pay you like a normal player? Do you get 4 installments? How that works?
I mean, the Bonilla one is there's a date where he gets the check,
$1 million.
but it's a smaller than 9.1.
I would imagine his $1 million like 8 years ago felt a lot stronger than it does now, and it's still anyone would take $1 million check, but it's
20 to 33, 1.4 is going to be the
what is
equivalent
that?
of
That's going to be like the new 250.
600. Yeah, something small. Power 5 coordinators will all be making well more than that by 2033.
Do you think, or we've peaked? Not peaked, but
On coordinator salaries?
like, do you think one day coaches are going to make $40-50 million?
Well, I think
Not college, probably, but it's pretty high right now.
I know
right?
it is high.
And there's still a lot of colleges that aren't even close to that.
There are a lot of colleges that aren't close to that. But is the equivalent of Kyle Shanahan making $30 million a year? I mean, is there just going to be, is everything going to just continue to go up? Because NFL head coaches have really seen their salaries boom in the last several years.
Well, think about this. We have like $40 and $50 million quarterbacks. In a decade, do we have a $90 million quarterback? Because it does feel like the NBA is going to pump.
As long as everyone's, does the money keep going up exponentially? If the answer is yes, then the answer is yes. Right.
Well, you would say based on the new television contract, it would probably be 60, 70, right? It does feel like the NBA's peaked. Like,
it does. But part of it is the sport. They're not making as much.
Well,
right?
And their number, they've been at, like James Harden's like, I've been making $45 million for 4 straight years.
Because like there are soccer players that would go, yeah, I mean, there are guys making $50 million
10 years ago,
long before anybody here started making $50 million.
Yeah. Less of them though, right? It only felt like a group of like 7, 8 were making the huge money.
Yeah.
Here it's like, oh yeah, we got Ben Simmons. He's making 38. You're like, what?
That's part of it. You can't get burned by that and stuck with contracts, right? In the NFL, it's a little easier to get out of contracts.
It's like Wiggins, best role player on the team. It's like, yeah, he makes $33 million.
NBA is incredible for that.
Guys, it's the greatest business partnership in the history of the world, I think. The
greatest. For the players.
The average salary, $7 million.
Well, I looked last night or this morning, James Johnson. My dad texted me this morning. He's like, James Johnson, he's been on 12 teams. And then he like listed like the Raptors twice. I'm like, James Johnson, how much has James Johnson made? Been in the league 13, 14 years, whatever. He's made like $72 million. $72 million.
You know what Mike Brown's about to find out?
He's by definition a journeyman, been on 12 teams.
Mike Brown's going to be like, wait, we have a $200 million player? Yeah, you do. His name's De'Aaron Fox. Like, oh, several-time All-Star? No, he's never even sniffed an All-Star
defender?
Team. No, doesn't play any defense. What, has he really proven anything in the NBA? No, some sweet highlights, and he scores 30 points every once in a while in games that mean nothing. How much does he make? Yeah, he's on a max contract. He makes $175 million a year.
But go yell at him. Yell at him.
I would say De'Aaron Fox. There are a lot of De'Aaron Foxes all over the NBA.
Right? I heard
there aren't really that many in the NFL.
Anthony Slater, I think, said on the Plus Minus podcast with Kawakami and Marcus that Vivek was at the game the other day. He's like, Big Kings outing. Walton was there. Mark Jackson was there trying to get the job. Mike Brown there, and Vivek was there.
Well, did you see that my mom, when I went home yesterday, had the sack B laying for me? Or it was it had to be the B because Biederman was writing about the Niners. There was an article from Mike Brown's agent on the record that was like, if he's offered, we will accept. It's basically like begging for the job. It's like, is this normal? This guy's agent, this guy's a several-time head coach, multimillionaire. He's like, we want the job. This was his agent on the record in the Sacramento paper. Incredible. Was it just as simple as he begged Vivek, like, I will take the job?
No, I think Vivek wanted Mark Jackson and the GM wanted Mike Brown.
Kings, man. I would rather have Mike Brown than Mark Jackson, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
it might not even matter.
Yeah. All right. Now we out. Podcast coming tomorrow. Thanks to everybody for hanging with us. We appreciate you. Donations, thank you very much. Very much appreciated. Podcast down in the description below. And all you got to do is support us, show up. That's all we ask. Anything beyond that's extracurricular, but we're thankful for for all of you. Have a good Monday night, everybody.